And then they started doing like their frappuccinos or whatever. And you're like, wow, I actually like coffee. It's like, well, no shit. It's because it's like fucking half cream and quarter sugar, and then there's like 2 shots of espresso.
Don't even get me started on the syrups.
Those went crazy. And along with those, you know what else went crazy?
What?
Flavored vodkas.
Oh, dude, the whole. Oh my.
You remember that
gosh.
brand Pinnacle?
Art was like thumbs down. Yeah. Oh
Pinnacle.
My God.
They were doing like, you'd go into a liquor store.
Yeah.
And you would see a wall full of Pinnacle, like 50 fucking flavors. You're like, when are they going to stop? Like, they got the seasonal shit. They're doing like salted caramel. You're like, what do people just sit around like drinking a tumbler full of like, you know, s'mores flavored vodka?
Yeah.
Did they?
No, did they? I mean, I know
know
they made it. I know there was like s'mores, but
they did
no,
like,
dude.
They
I
did
think
like bacon flavor. And
well, that's why it kind of just like it kind of died down. I think
they just got too.
Well,
far
how do you
ahead.
think it felt like for distribution? Like, could you imagine?
They must have hated it,
dude. Distributors like walking in and like being like, okay, I gotta like sell like 40 flavors.
Yeah.
Now, as opposed to like whatever. And when it started out, right, it was like lemon, I think. You know, a lemon, like a Bacardi
well,
or something.
Like,
but it was like
Absolute was the one that
orange.
first started doing it, right?
Yeah, I think Absolute was like one of the big ones that
they would advertise like, but it was always something like kind of classy that you know you'd expect.
Yeah,
and then you started seeing like bacon flavored, and they're like this is the perfect vodka for a Bloody Mary. You're like fucking bacon flavored vodka, really?
Yeah, pepper.
Yeah, pepper.
I was like, yeah.
When Absolute did their first pepper, I was like, okay, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
And then Pinnacle, which was like a luxury vodka, they bastardized the shit out of that brand by throwing all of these different flavors at it. Yeah. And now it's like, what, $9.99?
That's the thing, though, too, is that's what it did. It, like, diminished, right?
Yeah,
like, I mean...
Yeah. Well, vodka in general has, like, been losing some ground, I think, you know, like, overall. Brown spirits has, like, come on board and whatever, but, yeah, they sure did have their heyday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, do you miss those days?
Flavored vodkas, day in the sunshine. Here you go, look at this. Got the lineup.
Oh my gosh, dude!
Absolute pears. I like how they made that plural and everything else is singular.
See, I would be like, I'm also like curious. I would be curious, like which ones just like tanked, like which ones were just like stayed on the shelves, compared to ones that, because I would imagine that vanilla killed it.
Yeah.
Right. But. I mean, pears? You think like
what are you going to do with pear-flavored vodka? Like, I mean, I'm trying to think, what would you do? What would be a cocktail? You used to bartend.
Yeah.
What would you imagine a pear-flavored vodka to go with?
Like, what do you mean to go, like to...
Like, what kind of drink? What would you make? If you're like, okay, I'm working with this flavored spirit, now let's make... a sidecar,
but that's the thing though. Like it would be what you would basically do is probably like a pear martini. But you could do like you could make like a pear pie.
And do like a graham cracker crust on the rim of your
graham cracker crust that shit, and then bring like other, because you could use your graham cracker vodka. No, a lot of it was like juices and stuff. Like I worked at places where it would be like prickly pear was like a big thing at one of the places I worked at, like too. But
prickly pear,
yeah, but a lot of them would
be
like the syrup,
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that. Yeah. It wouldn't be so much like the liquor. But that was another annoying thing though too, is that for like bartending and stuff like that, then they would like bring these things in there. So then you're like,
I only have so much.
In your whole row,
space.
yeah, you're just like, dude, why do I need?
Yeah.
All these like absolutes, like just like
does somebody actually just come in and they're like, I would like Absolute peach on the rocks with a splash of ginger ale. Yeah. Like I doubt that's ever been ordered at a bar. Yeah. Maybe it has. But what if you're like, I'm sorry, we don't have Absolute peach? Like, oh my God, what kind of establishment is this? I thought you guys were classy. I'm leaving.
Never coming back. Do you respect the pear?
All right. Well, we're here on another episode of Go With Your Palate.
Yes.
I got my homie Chris, Fat Mario in the house. Yeah, and I'm Joe Wagner, and we are here just to talk about shit and wine and whatever.
Yeah. And we're here to talk about denim on denim.
What?
Look at this right now.
I find this really interesting.
Oh.
Look at this. I got my blue denim and my blue denim, and then you came in your black on black. I don't know, man. What were you? Like last night, were we like synced up in our dreams or something? What we're gonna wear?
I mean, don't act like you. I mean, you kind of told me like before I came over here. Like, are we doing our?
Are we doing all denim?
Yeah, I think.
This is like.
Can we just stop talking about? Hey, well.
You're like right now. We are like Justin Timberlake's like subconscious, right?
Yes, that's what I like.
And so wait, like you're the devil and I'm the angel for him.
No,
because he goes all denim. I just forgot my denim hat.
I'm JT. You're Brittany.
I don't think so. You want me to shave my head and beat somebody with an umbrella?
Dude, okay, tell me this. What is one of your top karaoke songs that you perform? How many times have I had to watch you do Hit Me Baby One More Time?
Nobody does a cover like that except me. Nobody can do it. Nobody can pull it up.
There you go. I'm glad you're owning it.
I will own it. I will own it.
I am glad you're owning it. I can see that Sherpa's going to your head, that like inside collar right there. You're like feeling it. Dude, but hey, could I just say that there was... I think there was like maybe like a couple episodes back where you were, you're giving me shit about style and fashion, and then you admitted that. I mean, I kind of told you. I mean,
this
you
is
got
so.
denim
So
on
you're
denim
saying
from,
that like this
you
is
saw me doing it.
Just
and you
me
were
wearing
like,
this is me telling you that you're a good fashion icon. Is that what you're saying?
I just don't know. How do you still do denim on denim and you still give like that lumber sexual vibe? Like you still like no vest or flannel today, but yet you're just like you just broke back.
my curated lumber sexual
look. Which is a great movie. I like that. I do love that movie. I'm glad you're bringing it back for me.
I've still never seen Brokeback.
That jacket, I swear, that jacket really gives like it's good. It's a good vibe. Wilderness.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Chris. Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
let me know
that reminds me of a time I was in a store. They're like, "Oh, we love your look." I'm like,
yeah,
this is actually like my work clothes, dude. My work clothes. Come on.
You always gotta like bring it back to like someone trying to get you to model some kind of
I'm a bear.
Ring, not for your finger, but
Speaking
for other
of a
things.
Bear, we got our little friend over here in the corner.
Bear.
Woo.
Yeah. Baron's in the house.
That's actually a life-size replica of the cocaine bear, which we spoke about on our previous podcast.
No, that bear is not high on cocaine though.
But look at him. He's got that smile. He's got the like crooked like.
Dude, no, because he's drunk as hell.
Oh, he's drunk.
Yeah, Bear.
He only
Bear
drinks his Zinfandel.
Yeah. I just want to say,
grandfather grape.
Don't overconsume, but he is a bear. He is, 5.
So, am I supposed to be jealous?
1,000 pounds. What?
Am I jealous?
Well, you should. I mean,
yeah.
You are noted to be.
He's 5'11", 220.
Yeah, you got. Yeah.
No, 6. Sorry, what? 6'1", 220.
I'm 6'1", 220.
Wait, that's right.
I don't know
thank
what this
you.
bear is trying to say, but yeah.
Right.
Okay. We have 2 bears in the studio. I like how you're accepting it now.
I do solemnly swear.
I feel like it just came at you. Like you just kept. People were just coming at you and calling you a sexy bear and like, "What's up, Grizzly?" And like, I think there was like an answer back video on your TikTok one time where someone was like roaring at you.
Yeah, I think so.
They're like,
hey, you know what?
How's it go?
Like everybody else.
Wait, actually, don't do a call right now because like I don't want like a rush at the door. Like there's gonna be, you'll be havoc.
I don't mind whoring myself out. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Okay, I'm okay with it. He's a wild card. I've accepted. I've accepted it.
You were such a wild card. I like that, dude. I like that.
I mean, what, do I just leave that comment to the imagination, or do I clarify what whoring myself out means?
As you all know, Joe the winemaker on TikTok and Joe Wagner official on Instagram. Slide into his DMs. He does not mind whoring himself out. So we'll go into and that is not a wine myth, but we will talk about some wine myths.
Let's get into wine myths. Yeah, let's skirt the subject.
I always think these are fun to go over some of these, like, I don't know, like old age myths, maybe some of them, and I'm sure like you hear a lot about them too, like in your ventures of wine travel, doing wine dinners, people asking you questions all the time in regards to the wine business. I mean, now you get like a lot of questions just about influencing because that's really what you do.
Shut the fuck
not
up.
Winemaking. But let's try to go back to your roots here. So Wine always gets better with age. So, actually, I got a video here. If we could just link us in,
okay, go ahead.
This is
go
you.
Ahead.
This is you and your native environment. No, actually.
Question I get a lot is how long should you cellar your wine for before you enjoy it? Well, it really comes down to personal preference and what wine you're going to be aging. Now, Pinot Noir ages very well for a long period of time because of its acidity. I'm not a huge fan of aging Cabernet. I'd say Cab 8 to 10 years. Pinot Noir, good upon release, it's low structure, but can last for 20, 30 years. Favorite wines for me though, Riesling and Champagne. My favorite aged wines. Phenomenal.
Okay, we just watched this.
So that guy knows what he's talking about.
Dude, I follow that guy, Joe the winemaker. Dude, he's fucking crazy as hell. But you surprised me with the Riesling, actually.
Yeah, Riesling, did you go back to some of those old Rieslings? Like, they hold up 30, 40, 50 years, probably even longer. No problem. Same with Champagne. I think that age-worthiness is determined more by acid than it is by structure. So, and that's why I think in that video I mentioned that Pinot Noir age is great, because it has low structure, so you can enjoy it in its youth.
Yeah.
But you can also enjoy it in its age because it has good acidity. Cab, I think, oftentimes, like, it has low acid, naturally, lower acid, I should say. So once that structure is kind of, like, aged out, then you typically are left with kind of, like, something that doesn't really, like, excite the palate when you try it. So that's why I have, like, my own personal preference, like, time frame. 8 to 10 years out for a Cab, and then Pinot is just like really your preference. But does it always get better with age? I think one of the things that I've noticed, like when I get to do verticals, or like shots of a period of time that passes from the same bottling. So like Clark and Telephone Pinot Noir, I did this one tasting. It was 2002, 2007, 2012, and 2017. So 4 wines. 5-year gap in between each of those wines, right? So it's over a 15-year period.
Yeah.
And so I was able to talk about the winemaking practices and style and what had changed from that first 2002 to the 2007, and then from the 7 to the 12. And so that part of it in itself was really interesting. And you got to see a broader perspective on how these wines age out. Now, there's one thing that I always notice when I do something like that, is that people are more inclined to just go straight towards the old wine, unless you taste it blind. So if you taste them blind, you're probably going to get something in like the earlier release, maybe 7 years, 10 years out, that is going to be the preference. That's what I've seen at least.
Yeah.
But once somebody knows that there's a wine in there that's been aged for like 15, 20 years, the romance gets in their head, and then they're like, this must be better, and they're just like, yeah, this is my favorite. And you're like, no, I want you to like challenge yourself, really, like taste it, smell it, how does it grace your palate, and against something that's got 5 years of age or less. And so I think that when you do it blind, you get a true sense of what people think, what they like, but the romance will always skew your brain once you know.
Yeah.
And that's why blind tastings are so good.
I like that. And I mean, that's where, so you're obviously, if people don't know or heard, like, but that's always, that's been your motto, go with your palate.
Yeah.
And, I thought it was something, you actually said something that was interesting the other day. We were talking about like Pinot Noir. So you mentioned even in the video that Pinot Noir ages very well. But then also but it's like, especially like the Pinot that you're putting out there is like ready to drink.
Yeah.
And so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but then it came down to, I think, we got like a comment or something, and someone kind of replied that they prefer their Pinot Noir age, and there's something that basically it's better. And then you kind of put in this perspective that if you're drinking it in its youth, then you're going to get more of a fruit-forward Pinot experience, right? And then it's like if you age it, and let's just say 10 years plus, then you're getting more into like a earthy, you had a great terminology for it, bottled bouquet?
Bottled bouquet.
Okay.
That is what the professionals in the industry call it.
Yeah.
But it really is like, it's like earthiness, like that kind of umami-ish, mushroom, forest floor.
Okay.
So like, kind of like, you put yourself in a place, you're like walking along the Sonoma coast in the redwoods, and like you can kind of smell everything, the decomposing of all of the stuff that's fallen from the trees and all that, and it's got this like kind of moist earthiness. Like that's kind of what I think of like most aged wines, but aged Pinots. in particular. So really, it comes down to personal preference, and that's what I always try to empower people to do. It's like, I don't care what you drink. If you like Coors Light, great. Maybe someday you'll be drinking Pinot Noir, but I'm not gonna like bag on you for drinking Coors. Taste of the Rockies, man. Keep it going.
I like that. Go with your Rockies.
Go with your Rockies.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, I think aging wine, like, you have to nowadays. You have to do both, and do them well, right? Because if the majority of the wine you're going to sell is going to get consumed within like usually the first night that they buy it, or like within the first month or year. There are so few people like laying down wines. Like our generation, do you know anybody that has a wine cellar? Like, I don't even have a wine cellar.
No, I mean, like...
my wine cellar, I just leave all my shit at the winery.
Yeah.
So, and I don't, like, it's fun to go in there every once in a while and be like, oh, I forgot I had that. It's like,
yeah,
I'm not going to drink it.
Yeah.
But it's like a lot of, the wine fridge, that's one thing. But, like, the wine fridge is really just for your, like, immediate use.
I feel like that always had, like, some kind of, like, I don't know, it was a way just to boost it up, you know, like say, you know, you're having someone over for dinner or something like that, and you're like, let me go to the cellar, and choose this wine, that you've had that's been aged for like 10 years, and said,
but
like,
is that like a little creepy? Be like,
let me go to the wine cellar.
Like, you want to come to my wine cellar?
See, now that's
pick
creepy.
Something out.
Yeah, when you do that, I'm creeped out. But see, what I say was like, I'm gonna go down there and go get it. Like I would say, like, why don't you come with me to the cellar?
Then you lock the doors and turn the lights off. You're like, okay, this just got weird.
Everyone that's been down there has enjoyed their time.
Wait, was
that creepy?
No, that wasn't creepy at all.
Wait, I
didn't think it was creepy.
See, nothing scares a bear. Bears aren't scared.
But no, it is a thing though, right? Like nobody's like building wine cellars anymore.
Yeah.
To like sit on and age. And what I've seen is that, through my parents' friends and even, people that are, much older than them, they have these beautiful wine cellars, like amazing selection of wines.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, you got like 5,000 bottles in your wine cellar and you're like 85 years old. Is there any way in hell you're ever going to finish all this wine?
You're like, throw a party by that time, like, right? Like, just let it go.
Actually, one of the most fun things so what happens is like, when that person passes, and that's a highly valuable wine cellar, usually like a restaurant will come in and buy it for like pennies on the dollar and put it on their list. And like there's a big business in that. I mean, you could go, auction it off and whatever else, but typically that's kind of how it all ends. The family's like, fuck, I don't need a wine cellar. I don't know, maybe it's worth $100,000. And then they like get somebody to come in, calculate what the value is of all of them, and then be like, all right, well, this is the value. This guy will buy all of it for, a fraction of the value, but it's like easy, get it out of the way. Everybody gets a slice of the money and then they're off.
Well, there's that kind of aspect of it too, though, right? For collectors. I mean, you could get in the business, right, of selling, older, hard to get wine.
Yeah.
Like almost like, like comic books.
Yeah. You can hold on to it.
Yeah.
Just keep it cellared right.
Yeah, like I held on to that Hulk 181,
Oh, yeah, you still got it, right?
I still got it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Wolverine's first appearance, for these that you don't know.
In case nobody knows that Wolverine was first shown in Hulk 181. It's quite
technically it was the one before. 180 it was his cameo, but 181 is his full story. So like that's why that one's worth. That's why that one's like the big one.
So what if you had both of them? Is that like a...
I mean, like, yeah, you could have both of them and sell them together. But cameos usually are like, they would do that a lot too, like in comic books, where at the very end, you see this new character, which made you what? Like want to get the next one, right? To find out who is this person and what's up. And then like Wolverine just happened to be like a lot of people's favorites. But I don't get me started on Wolverine, bro.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So back to wine cellars.
Okay. Wait. Hey. Yeah. Back to wine cellars.
I got to tell you one story though about my wine cellar. I used to have a wine cellar.
Okay.
And it was like kind of like off the side of the house, and I had it full. It wasn't a big one. I probably had like 500 bottles or something there, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna turn this into like a laundry room now. So instead of like just having like a little corner where the laundry laundry was done. And so, like, blew out the wall and everything. But during that time, I was like, whenever we had people over, it'd be like, let's open like 5 bottles and see what's good.
Yeah.
And sometimes stuff was good, sometimes it was bad. But it was just fun to like go through all of it. And then just, I mean, I took like my sentimental bottles and put those in at the winery.
Yeah.
But overall, it was just like, you know, what else am I going to do with all this stuff? And we had a hell of a time drinking it. And most of it was like aged, you know, near perfectly.
Yeah. You know what got me thinking about too is that, I mean, well, with the wine cellars, but what about doing something like you do with Taylor Lane?
You mean as another producer?
Like, well, so I mean, when you have like those the magnums that you got, that so those are already, so those are coming out like 2012.
Like 2011 was the first vintage.
Yeah, 2011.
We just ran out of that a couple months ago, and then we just released the 2014 because that's tasting really good right now. So that's another thing, like vintage variation, and not every vineyard has like that much variation. Taylor Lane has a lot of variation.
Yeah.
So we tasted through like after the 11, when the 11 was coming towards an end, as far as like having any inventory of it to sell, we went through and tasted the 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah. And so we did 5 vintages, and then we were like, well, what's tasting best right now, or what is one that we think is ready for release?
Yeah.
And we settled on the 2014. So that'll be so we skipped the 12 and the 13. Those are still aging in magnums. They're still a little bit tight, but those were like relatively cool years. So it was like you had like a little more, it was a little more like structure and acid kind of bound up. So wanted that to soften out more. 14 was a pretty ripe year. So we were like, this one's tasting like on fire right now. Let's release this. So it's kind of a cool thing where if we're able to maintain all of that inventory in a properly, you know, cellared, you know, temperature, humidity, etc., and then release it when we think it's perfect to drink, then it's a win-win.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of cool because like when you release it, then, you know, like you're gonna get the 14, then the everyone's gonna be receiving it almost like a decade aged.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I mean, there you go. Then you're like, hey.
But it's also one of the things that's difficult about that is some people like they'll look at it and be like, 2011, like maybe this stuff just hasn't sold.
Oh,
like it's been sitting on, you know, sitting on a wine list. You're like, no, this was totally intentional.
Yeah.
It was released like whatever 6 months ago, so it is ready to drink.
Yeah.
So you got to have somebody who, now this is where the sommelier comes in, double-edged sword. If you have somebody who's knowledgeable about this stuff and is able to go to a table at a restaurant and be like, I have this wine, it was done with this intention, it's a 2011, et cetera, and then people are like, oh wait, okay, this isn't just an old wine. This is like a wine that was really thought about, and they were pragmatic about, you know, the vineyard, the location, how they planted it, how they grew it, how they made the wines, and how they cellared the wines. So when you like think of it from the whole like kind of global perspective of what the intention was, people will get that, but you can't write all that story on the back label, nor people aren't even going to care, really.
Totally. Yeah. That's cool though. I mean, so let's go to another myth.
All right.
Chilling red wine. So this has been something that I think has been cool too, because through like your social, so you have a video here. This is like, this is how you do it. Let's go ahead and just play that real quick.
Red wine, to chill or not to chill? That is the question. Depends on the application. Warm day, spicy food, chill. Try it out, throw it in an ice bucket, and enjoy.
So that was just okay. You slam that baby into a bucket of ice. But this has been great because I think this is like something you've done multiple videos, kind of like really explaining like the importance of chilling your reds. And so I think this is another myth that red wine should never be chilled.
Yeah. I don't think you should chill most red wines, but like there are times and places for everything, right? Yeah. So like depending on what you're eating, maybe you want to chill a Pinot. If you go to like Cab or Petit Syrah, I'd leave those at like cellar temperature because like they can really get tight. Their tannin can get really tight.
Yeah.
If they're chilled down too heavily, but being that Pinot is like a light structured wine, you can chill it and it'll still be like really pleasant. So I think it really just comes down to the place, but it's breaking down that wall of like, no, the wine world told me not to chill reds, so I'm not going to chill reds.
Yeah.
Well, you know, don't knock it until you try it. There might be a place for it. Like I always go to, if you're having like carne asada tacos, chill your Pinot down. it tastes amazing. Like it's really fucking good.
Yeah, and I think
for that one, tried it, damn good.
Yeah. Oh, we got.
I would have never tried it if it wasn't for Joe. That was delicious.
Oh,
thank you, Art. Thank you.
Yeah, and Art is that's official too. Art is Mexican. I like that. You know, I'm only half, so I was gonna tell you that I like it too. It's good, but
well, you know what I've noticed here is like the Hispanic and Mexican community here in wine country.
Yeah,
like they're jumping into drinking like wine. I mean, the stereotype is that it's like you always have your Pacifico or your Corona, right?
Yeah,
and like I'm seeing like a lot of the Hispanic community here like jumping into wine.
Yeah,
like they love it.
Yeah,
and it's great to see. Like there's always you just get surprised to see like a whole culture shift and like adopt something that wasn't in like their wheelhouse, like down in Mexico. I mean, Mexico makes some amazing wines.
Yeah.
But they're just not accessible everywhere. And oftentimes it's just kind of viewed as like, why would I pick out a wine? Like I've got my cerveza, I'm good.
Yeah.
But no, it's cool to see that like there's a whole shift in like this, breaking down the norms.
Totally.
So that's good.
Cool. I like it.
But and also white wines, like typically chill them. But there are times like I'll see a Chardonnay I've had where it tastes way better when it's like at cellar temperature. So if you want, because a big whites can like kind of read a little more like a red, like have a little more oak, a little more structure to them. So like if you let them warm up a little bit, then you get a whole different experience. So it's really just trial and error, figuring out what you like.
Yeah.
And go with your palate.
Go with your palate.
Go with your palate.
And then also, I mean, I think it's good too if you follow your socials, Joe Wagner Official on Instagram or Joe the Winemaker on TikTok. You break those down too, like the temperatures of each, like rosé, Chardonnay, Cabernet, and all like the ones that you like. So we have content on that. I think it's great. So the next myth is this. I like this one a lot because this is when I grew up, I feel like this myth was, even though we grew up here, but I felt like, in movies or whatever you would see, like there was like some Somm or some, wine expert, tasting wine and smelling it and, or, doing the whole deal, but like they would have this thing where you look at the legs.
Yeah. No, look at the legs.
Yeah, and so it was this thing of if it has nice legs, that it's a great wine.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like I always think that was like the most legs it had to like the how long they were or how long they're tripping, right? And then I remember like we were like growing up and stuff like that. You felt that was funny. I'll let you take that one over.
No, but that is really, like that was a real. I think that was just like an old. But I think that was from like yesteryear, and I think that was mostly determined by like how ripe the grapes got.
Yeah.
Because if you have ripe grapes, you have higher alcohol.
Yeah,
and
alcohol evaporation.
Yeah, and when you swirl it, you'll see because of the evaporation, you'll see that it beads off into like multiple streams, right?
Yeah.
So take a glass, like a wine glass, fill it with water, and swirl it around, and it just sheets down.
Yep.
And then get a wine and try it, and it'll like separate out, and you'll get these legs, is what they call them. I think it was just some perverted dude being like, I'm gonna call these legs and be like, nice legs.
I feel like it's like, he always just wanted to like set up like
I know I would like
set
to
it
know
up so somebody could be like nice legs like you.
And then like the date is like,
bear man.
Are you talking to me? He's like, oh no, darling, I'm talking to the wine.
So we break that down that's not really, it's just alcohol that you're looking at.
Yeah, it's not like I mean.
So I guess the more the legs, right? Then you're looking at more. It's probably like the more the alcohol content.
Yeah. So the nicer the legs, the higher the alcohol.
Yeah.
I guess something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, do that little experiment with like a glass and water and a glass and wine, and see how it works. It's kind of interesting. I mean, people don't talk about it much anymore, but most of the wines that are produced now are like high enough alcohol and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like we don't have an issue with ripeness, so it's not like we're making 11% Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Sounds like no fun. Or like the good for you wines. Like, oh yeah, it's 80 calories and per serving and it's 7% alcohol, and you're like, what? what the fuck did you do to make that wine? Like, you must have just, were you like in a lab just screwing with shit and making it not real wine, but like just chasing a market? I don't know. Kind of frustrating from like the more traditionalists in the industry that are like preserving what you're like what winemaking history is about.
It's like wine. It's like, this is great tasting, no sugar, and you're like, what? And it's like aspartame or like saccharin.
Yeah, you're like,
are we gonna bring saccharin back?
Is there an ingredient
or like carefree gum?
I would imagine they got to put those ingredients on the label. I still haven't tried like a good for you wine. I will go out and buy a bottle and try it, but it's just like,
yeah. It always got me. I just like dude, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's this, you always got to pay a price, right? So it's like anytime that like you're taking away something and it's like replaced with this chemical shit, hopefully they don't try to do that with wine, but I just remember some of those warning signs, you know? You get like a pack of gum and it's like the warning on it that was like caused cancer in laboratory rats, and you're like,
so we didn't have any milk.
Should I be chewing this spearmint?
So we didn't have any milk in the fridge, right? So we put Coffee Mate in. It's French vanilla Coffee Mate.
Oh shit.
And it like, doesn't it just like leave this like funky, it's even like hard to talk after drinking this. It's got this like, bleh.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned it, I mean, I was like drinking it, now I'm thinking about it.
I haven't had it in forever, and it's just like, I'm reminded as to why I don't drink Coffee Mate.
Because it feels like it's just like arsenic that you just took. But okay, so let's go for another myth, which is, again, this has been a great one, I think, to like overcome, and I think this was something that hopefully more people know now. I would almost kind of think like majority have accepted the screw cap.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there was a thought, right, that the screw cap meant, you know, lesser quality wine.
Yeah. It did at one point.
Yeah.
But I mean, nowadays, like, people look at them and they I think they see them as like a very good closure.
Yeah.
Like, it is perfect seal every time, easy to open, seals back up very nicely. So if you don't finish your bottle, which if you don't finish a bottle, like, you know, in a night, you should probably work on that. Like,
wait.
Like two people and two glasses of wine each. Come on.
There we go. Okay, there you go. You had the two people. I didn't want people like, you know.
Oh yeah.
We don't. Yeah, we're not promoting.
Yeah, we're
over consuming
alcoholism. Yeah,
but, you know, whatever. Go with your palate.
But it is a great closure, and like I've seen our wines age out very well from like the early days when we started doing screw caps, and they age just as gracefully as cork.
Yeah.
So at some point, I don't know, like I think it maybe becomes more of like a traditional thing to keep cork, and that the romance of it, the pop, you know, all that stuff, that kind of remains. But the cork industry does need to fix their shit a little bit better, because I think a lot of people are moving away from cork because they're buying cheap grade corks that can have flaws like TCA, and the percentage of flawed wine that they put out in the market may be 5 or 10%. Where it just smells like musty, like an old musty cellar, cardboard, that sort of thing. That's TCA. So that's a flaw. So what do? Well, you go to an alternative closure. It could be a composite or synthetic cork. It could be a screw cap. And those are going to be cheaper than an actual cork. So if you're going with corks, like our corks are all what's called ND Tech, and those are all guaranteed to never have TCA. So like the highest grade, and every single cork is tested. So that comes at an extra cost, but at the same time, if you're selling luxury wine, you don't want somebody to get a corked bottle of your wine and be like,
no.
"Oh, this sucks." And it's not the producer's fault, but it's still a bad look on the producer.
Yeah, and I mean, but that's just something
you're not going to go blame the cork company.
Yeah,
yeah.
But like you bring up a good point though, is that you want to rectify that because cork wine happens, and it doesn't. It's just something that happens because of you're saying because of a cork defect.
Yeah, it's actually in the bark of the tree, which is where you get the corks.
Yeah. And it is also a sad experience when someone, if you imagine on site or restaurant or that kind of experience, someone has that, right? And then they could not understand that.
Yeah.
And then just look poorly on your wine.
Yeah.
Right? Or be able to really catch that. Like I know we've talked about it before with like wine etiquette, the smelling of the cork. Catching if a wine is corked or has that problem, or just even smelling it and being able to identify that. If you can't, then The wine could suffer. The winemaker.
And I've got like my personal issue with this is like if I'm at a restaurant and I get a corked bottle, I don't send it back. Like I'll order another bottle, but I'll just be like, no, I just
Oh, you keep
this.
it.
Yeah, I feel bad because like the restaurant, they shouldn't be liable for that either. And the server or the restaurant manager or the owner, they're rarely ever going to go back to the distributor, and the distributor is going to go back to the producer. The producer is going to go back to the cork manufacturer. Like that chain, like somebody's going to lose along the way.
Dang.
And I'll just be like, all right, I'm just going to absorb this one. Like, I don't want everybody thinking like, that like you look like a dick, first of all. Not you.
But I mean,
not right now.
Yeah.
I'm just. But
wait, what?
Yeah, Chris, you look like a dick.
No, I'm Fat Mario, bro.
No, but it's like sending a bottle back because you don't like it. Like, I always feel like, well, shit happens. Just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I mean, that's cool. It's a tough one though too. Like if you're a couple, you go in a nice restaurant and maybe you've like really been kind of saving for this for like a special event, and then you want to go out there and go all out, and you get like a really nice bottle of wine, and again you've been like kind of really saving up for this experience, and then you get a corked one.
Yeah,
that's a hard like absorb. Yeah, it's a screwy situation for everybody, but I think that's cool. So I thought also we would talk about like how you had fun with some myths. Like if we could just bring,
geez,
I just want to bring up like
one?
Can we? So we're gonna play this. This sparkling. Joe's gonna describe on this TikTok video like how sparkling wine is made, and we can see they're using a sparkling water machine. Check it out.
This how I do it. Now you also not supposed to do this, but this how I do it.
Somebody's out here telling the dirty secrets of the wine business. This is exactly how fine champagne is made. Just ask the French.
Oh, okay. Well, this stirred up a lot of stuff. So if you weren't watching it, because I don't know if you can really tell by like hearing, but they were using like a sparkling water machine.
Yeah.
And just putting like box wine in
the Soda Stream, right?
The Soda Stream.
So they put boxed wine into the Soda Stream canister, and then they carbonated it. So what's funny about that? First of all, I don't know if it works. I've never done it, but the video was cool. So we did a stitch video, whatever, me alongside what she's doing, and then I just talk about what it is. And I was like, I'm gonna troll some people. The French might even like send out like the army to kill me. But it's like, good gaslighting. And then the other, I mean, it's so funny to see the comments. People get so pissed off. They're just like, that is absolutely not the traditional method. And like, I mean, just telling you like, no shit, Sherlock. Like the point of the video was just, like spark some curiosity.
Yeah.
Now, how many people of those hundreds of comments probably went out and they're like, well, how is champagne made?
Yeah. Exactly.
And then they learned. All they had to do was read a page on Wikipedia. So, like that kind of shit, instead of just like being like, the all-knowing and I've got an answer for everything in wine, just, fuck around a little bit. And, it's going to be boring if you just tell people how you make wine. You could troll them.
Well, it caused a lot of shit. That's all I'm going to say.
I liked it.
There was like a lot of angry people. There was also some people that were, French descent that came up to.
The final piece, like, just ask the French.
Oh my gosh. It's all in jokes. It's all in fun. But, some people don't take it that way at first.
Yeah.
So that also like the myths of wine, like, seeing if a wine is good. We have like, you listening to your wine.
Oh yeah, that's like one of my favorite things. Like when you just listen to the wine and see what people do, you're like, huh. This sounds
Hi,
like
your boyfriend is a wine connoisseur.
And this is just now what you're watching is like it's like a side by side.
And I'm just holding the glass up to my ear, like, oh yes, this is good.
This is good.
Yeah.
And I think it was like if you hear the pops of the bubbles or. If there's no pops of the bubbles, the wine's good. Or something.
So have you noticed that, like, I don't know if it's a generational thing, but like the younger generation seems like so gullible. Like, do they I mean, not everybody, but like there just seems to be like they take things like hook, line, and sinker, even when it's like total satire and a joke. Especially in light of like, these are the kids that grew up like with the internet at their fingertips.
Yeah.
And you can find any view, any opposing view, at like the stroke of a couple keys. And yet you have this, like, I'm talking, even my age, but like all the way down into 20s and earlier, like they'll just hear something and be like, no, that's the truth. And like, no, you got to do your research.
Well, I think, it's interesting to see how searching is becoming, TikTok's becoming huge with just searching, that as far as like Google, I think it's like.
And so if you want to learn how to make champagne, just take a look at my TikTok.
But you see what happens, right? Because it's like because obviously, like people on social media are having a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
You like to joke, and when you're joking, you really just don't, not everyone's going to have like the disclaimer and like ruin, like,
yeah,
hey, just want to let you know, this is just for fun. Here we go.
Yeah.
Like,
and yeah, we're going to be doing some more of that fun stuff.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be causing some more shit on that. Should we get some horrible bosses or what?
Yeah.
Should we
do it?
Okay.
Where do we have that one? It's there. All right. Horrible bosses. As you know, we do this every segment. Please do send in your stories of your horrible bosses, so that we can critique them and and talk some trash and learn a thing or two. So let's start here.
Horrible bosses. We're getting into it.
Chester cheese. All right.
Oh yeah, I like this.
I know. I like this already.
I like this already. Good
time. I used to work at this swanky restaurant bar as a bartender. Our GM there got nicknamed Chester Cheese, and I will explain why. A few nights out of the week, he would come in and get a table with random people or the mods. I don't know what that is.
Oh, managers on duty?
Oh, managers on duty. Okay. And start drinking all the expensive alcohol to his heart's desire for free. Example of bottles of expensive wines or rounds of Louis the 13th. That's fucking baller right there. Okay.
Holy shit.
And no gratuity would be involved.
Oh, that's nice.
Not so bad, I guess. But he would then, dude, tell the owner of the restaurant bar that he's doing that. That's bad. Not so bad, I guess. But he would then start stumbling around, come behind the bar, knocking over drinks, creating awkward interactions of gibberish, and then he would begin to cheese. All right.
Okay.
Which is just stare off in the distance, smiling so big, like he was in another world. He could be found anywhere in the restaurant or at a nearby after-hours location. Just big smiles off in the distance, like he was in another world. He would barely respond to conversation and was basically incapable of helping with any restaurant needs. He created a tight-knit group with all the managers and would party with them off hours all the time, including HR.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it.
Is that okay?
Which made it difficult to go to any higher level management for aid. Normally during the day, he was a quiet and polite dude, but soon he would evolve into what became his nickname, Chester Cheese. The restaurant soon began to fall apart, and I left. I heard soon after he disappeared without notice because, well, I guess a business can't survive off big cheesy smiles. I mean,
there's a lot
to unpack. I mean, I think that the entitlement is one thing. You're just like
Louis the 13th.
Yeah, you're just doing baller moves like on no budget, like just letting the restaurant absorb it. That's pretty messed up. And then not tipping the service staff, especially if you're with like all the managers, right?
Yeah.
So if you're the GM and like you're just setting a horrible example. But in the hospitality industry, there's a lot of people like that. They're just like, I'm out for myself.
Yeah.
If this fails, I don't have any skin in the game. I can just find another place to go. And I think that's pretty common.
Yeah, and that's rough. I feel like like you said. I mean, the no gratuity. It's like, because I could imagine you're working, so a table is like a table if you have to like take care of it. If it's just this constant thing, and you're just like having to worry about that and serve out that, but you're like, they're part of your team. You would hope that they could at least, I don't know. It's just hard.
Yeah.
But I guess it was no big deal. It's like, it wasn't that bad, I guess. But, like the other part was that he just made my life miserable. He's just knocking over stuff or whatever.
You worked for some bad people then, if that sounds so bad.
Yeah. You're like,
yeah, that's...
I mean, okay. Yeah.
Scandalous.
I guess,
yeah. Scandalous.
And that is tough, too, because what do you do when someone is so... It's almost like they're like backing themselves up being so well connected, like with everybody.
Yeah.
That like you're almost like, what's my only option but to leave? Because I guess I guess you could go try to tell one of his cronies, but
a lot of hopscotching around in that business.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, once you get like a good team, you gotta like try to keep that good team. That's hard, but like in a situation like this, you're not gonna have teamwork.
I think we're learning also a lot about, certain businesses. Like the restaurant or bars and stuff like that, like what's happening behind the scenes.
I actually think
those are like the crazy. I feel like those are like the crazy stories.
They are the crazy ones, dude. People in that industry are like, they're all coked out of their mind. They're like, I mean,
Baron?
Dude, have you? Okay,
not you.
You're
not cocaine bear.
have you seen, like, this is one of the most interesting parts of the Somm community, right? So
we almost made it through an episode, but please continue.
So the Somm community, like, they are buttoned up. Like, you got the dudes in their 3-piece suit, the tie, looking good, well spoken,
yeah,
all that stuff. Making you feel good about what you're getting to drink. Ladies are always professional when they're out tableside too. Like, you're like, wow, these people like know their shit.
Yeah.
Go to an after hours party with them. These guys are like, and girls, they're like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I got invited to one party it was at Tech Somm. Do you know that's like a big Somm convention in Texas?
Yeah.
And so I happened to be there, and one of the reps was like, we're going to like the Somm party afterwards. You want to go? And I was like, you know how I do with Somms, right? She's like, yeah, it'll be fine. Like that. I'm like, okay.
I think someone should have told them that you were coming.
Oh no, they knew me as soon as I walked in the door. Dude, I will show you pictures. There's
pictures of their reactions of like when you walked in the door.
No, I actually became friends with like all of them. It was like 50 Somms or so there.
That's what I like about you though, man. We should say that, like, it talks back, but a lot of it's like in fun. You have a lot of friends that are Somms.
I do, like, yeah. But what was cool about it was like that, I was like, yeah, you guys ask me anything, whatever. It wasn't like that sort of venue, but I was talking to like, a lot of people there. There's some dude like passed out on the couch in his underwear. We start fucking with him, like putting a sword in his mouth and like a bunch of bottles. And then
wait, a sword?
Yeah, I've got a great picture of that. Like,
can we maybe like post?
There's like people.
Maybe we got some posts.
There's like people getting like naked. It was hilarious. So they inducted me that night into their Somm like group. So it was like a subgroup of all the Somms, right? And it was called like the Wine Nerds or something. And they're pretty strong. They're like big on Facebook and whatever else. And so they gave me the induction, and that's like, you get a pin. And then you have to take a shot of Fernet out of a unicorn's asshole. And so they have this unicorn that they travel around with. It's like a stuffed unicorn with a shot glass.
Many questions are coming by.
With a shot glass.
Yes.
I'm going to look for the picture, and I will send it to you guys, but I'll let you know if we can post it, because I don't want to incriminate anybody.
Possibly that will be showing right now.
But it was so what I'm getting at is that in many cases,
what are you getting at?
I know it's a really fucking long story. In many cases, the service industry, like people, if you're a server, if you're a bartender, if you're a Somm, GMs even, like party fucking animals, and like they're out to have a great time. And you got to think, like, if you're a GM and you're hosting people, you're gregarious. You're like ready to go at any moment.
Yeah.
Well, that just is amplified once you're off the floor and you're ready to go out and party. And so they're a wild group, but they're fun.
Dude, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of questions. I mean, it was good. I'm glad that you but okay, first of all, a sword in the mouth? Like, are we talking about a real sword? I just think this is like gnarly. I've heard like, get a Sharpie, write a penis on some dude's face.
I think we did that
too.
Like,
okay, but like also like you get like an actual like what? Like, would someone just be like, oh yeah, dude, here's my saber? And you're like, why? Like, why is there a sword? But because they're carrying around swords, right? Because they're like don't they get sabers? Or what are they doing? They
I
don't
don't
have
even
sabers
remember
because
what
they're
the sword...
just chopping champagne bottles and sparkling wine and stuff?
I don't remember what the sword was about.
Is that what you do with your sword? You're just like, you've got
you
your,
just
like,
cut it like Kill Bill style.
Yeah, like Kill Bill. You're like, yeah, stick the sword in his mouth. That would be hella funny. Like, if you saw that, it'd be like, dude, that's dangerous. But then, too, like, so you took the shot out of the unicorn's butt.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are now, like, in this club.
Yeah, I still got the pin.
Wait, there's a pin?
A pin. No, like, so you put it on, like, you know how, like, Somms have, like, their...
Oh, yeah.
Like, their credentials and whatever else, like, on their lapel?
Yeah.
So I got one of those.
Oh, my gosh, dude. Can we bring that in? Or maybe we could show that, like, that's what dude. I can't believe that. You're official, dude.
I'm official. And
you're a Somm nerd.
I'm a Somm nerd.
Wow, you're like some kind of, like, anti-hero or something.
But they were all cool. It was like, but they asked, like, some of them asked, you know, a bunch of questions. But that's one of my favorite things is, like, when people have a preconceived notion...
Yeah.
Of like me or my wines or whatever. And then you just have like a casual conversation with them and they're like, oh, he's legit. Like, well, I'm glad that took me talking to you personally to figure that shit out instead of you just sitting there in the corner judging me. But yeah, it's like, you know, it's pretty funny. It's
Dude, that's a wild story though, bro. Like, that's crazy.
All right, we might have to like fuzz out some of the faces.
Okay.
But yeah, you will have seen these pictures now like 3 minutes ago. And we might show them again right now. Okay. All right, on that
note, dude.
We're signing off. It is time to go. Thank you for watching or listening to Go With Your Palate.
Yeah! Dude, fucking the unicorn's butthole, bro.